So let's get into it because the Packers, to me, it's been a tale of two teams through the first two games, the last two games. It looked like legitimate Super Bowl contenders out of the gate. The last 2 weeks, not so much. Who are, and they've had some injuries, but who are the real Green Bay Packers?
I understand why the question is set up as this is a story of two different teams. I think it's actually really been the same team with just some edge case situations they propped up over the last two games. You look at weeks 1 and 2, they beat one of the best teams in the NFL in the Detroit Lions and did so in a dominating fashion. The following week, or really just a few days later, that was the Thursday night game. They beat a playoff team from a year ago, and again did so in a fashion where they had control of the game the entire time and they looked like a really dominant squad. Then they did lose in week 3 against the Browns, but if you watch that game, it wasn't until they threw that really unforced interception that the game ever really appeared as though it was, in the balance for Green Bay. And then this past week against the Dallas Cowboys, there were the injuries. I know you mentioned them at the top, but also they were dealing with injuries in the game. It wasn't just those offensive line injuries they entered the game with. It wasn't just the wide receiver injuries that they had, again, entering the game. It was, they lose their at least most athletic, most talented defensive tackle in the middle of the game to a knee injury. And then at a certain point, with all the snaps that were played, I mean, this game went into and all the way through overtime, they just kind of ran out of bodies along the defensive front. So that's why you see things like 40 points given up in one game when they'd only given up 41 points the previous 3 weeks combined. So to a certain degree, I don't actually think that this is really a tale of two teams. I think it's one team that has run itself into a few weird situations over the last 2 weeks. If you thought that they were a Super Bowl contender after weeks 1 and 2, I don't think that should change at this point, given how those games unfolded.